In the later years of life, a quiet transformation takes place. It does not announce itself loudly, nor does it arrive all at once. Instead, it unfolds slowly through subtle absences. Conversations become fewer. Expectations lessen. Roles that once defined a person begin to loosen their grip. And in these moments, a profound question emerges, not one of regret, but of meaning. What remains of a person when much of the external world no longer demands their attention? Old age confronts us with a truth that is easy to ignore in youth. Much of what we once relied on was temporary. Relationships change. Social recognition fades. Even the body, once dependable, becomes unpredictable. For many, this realization brings fear. For others, sadness. But for those who are prepared, it can bring clarity. Immanuel Kant, the great philosopher of moral freedom, never wrote specifically about retirement or aging as we understand it today. Yet his ideas speak directly to the inner challenges of old age. Kant believed that true dignity and happiness do not come from circumstances, praise, or companionship, but from autonomy, the ability to live according to an inner moral law, to be, as he famously said, a law unto oneself. In youth, this idea often feels abstract. Life is crowded with obligations, ambitions, and attachments. Happiness seems tied to others, to being needed, admired, or loved. But old age gently dismantles these illusions. It strips life down to what is essential, and what remains is not emptiness, but a test. Can one remain whole, grounded, and free without leaning on what no longer exists? Kant's philosophy offers an answer through four crucial pillars. These pillars do not promise excitement or endless pleasure. Instead, they offer something deeper and more enduring. Inner freedom, self-respect, and a quiet form of happiness that does not depend on the world's approval. The first pillar is the ability to be alone without experiencing solitude as suffering. Kant understood solitude not as punishment, but as a condition for inner freedom. To be alone is to be left with oneself, without distraction, without validation, without noise. For many, this is uncomfortable. Silence can feel heavy. Time can feel empty. But Kant would argue that discomfort arises not from solitude itself, but from the absence of an inner relationship. In old age, being alone becomes more common. Children grow busy with their own lives. Friends move away or pass on. Social invitations become rare. Those who have never learned to live with themselves experience this as abandonment. But those who have cultivated inner companionship experience it as peace. Consider an elderly man who begins each morning by opening the window, listening to the sound of the street, and preparing his breakfast slowly. He eats without rushing, not because he has nowhere to be, but because he chooses presence over distraction. He reads a few pages of a book, not to impress anyone, but to nourish his mind. His solitude is not empty, it is intentional. Kant believed that when a person can remain at ease in their own presence, they are no longer controlled by external circumstances. They are free. Solitude becomes a space of reflection rather than deprivation. Old age, then, is not a descent into loneliness, but an invitation to rediscover oneself without intermediaries. The second pillar is order in daily life. To Kant, order was not mere neatness. It was a moral discipline. A structured life reflects a structured mind. When daily life becomes chaotic, inner clarity is difficult to maintain. This is especially true in old age, when time feels both abundant and fragile. Order provides rhythm. It gives shape to days that might otherwise blur together. Simple routines, waking at the same hour, preparing meals with care, keeping one's living space clean, are not trivial acts. They are expressions of self-respect. Kant believed that freedom does not arise from doing whatever one wants, but from choosing discipline willingly. A person who creates order is not submitting to rigidity, but affirming their capacity for self-governance. Imagine an older woman who decides to clear out her home. She parts with objects tied to distant memories, letters she no longer reads, clothes she will never wear, items kept only out of habit. This act is not about loss. It is about release. By letting go of the physical way of the past, she makes room for the present. Order, in this sense, is a form of care. It preserves energy. It calms the mind. It allows a person to meet each day without feeling overwhelmed. For Kant, such order is essential for maintaining moral autonomy. Without it, one risks drifting, reacting rather than choosing. The third pillar is indifference to the judgment of others. Few things imprison the human spirit more effectively than the need for approval. Throughout life, people learn to measure themselves against others' expectations. They shape their behavior to avoid criticism or earn praise. In old age, this habit can become especially painful, as the standards by which one is judged are no longer aligned with one's reality. Kant argued that true freedom begins when a person no longer allows their worth to be defined externally. To live morally is not to conform, but to act in accordance with one's own rational principles. As people age, they may notice that others no longer understand them. Their pace is slower. Their priorities have changed. Their choices may seem outdated or irrelevant to younger generations. If one clings to others' opinions, this disconnect becomes a source of shame. But if one lets go, it becomes liberation. An elderly neighbor may live quietly, declining social gatherings, choosing simplicity over activity. Others might label this withdrawal. Kant would see it differently. He would see a person acting according to their own inner law, no longer compelled to perform for an audience. When judgment loses its power, dignity emerges. One no longer needs to explain or defend their way of life. Respect arises not from visibility, but from self-consistency. This quiet independence is a profound form of freedom. The fourth pillar is fidelity to oneself, the deepest and most enduring form of autonomy. Old age often raises an unsettling question. Does my life still matter? When professional roles end and social relevance diminishes, meaning can feel elusive. Kant believed that meaning does not come from usefulness to others, but from loyalty to one's moral self. Fidelity to oneself means honoring one's values, rhythms, and inner voice, even when no one is watching. It is expressed through small, deliberate acts that affirm existence. A woman applies perfume before going to bed, not for guests, but for herself. A man keeps a journal, recording thoughts that may never be read. Someone tends to plants on a balcony, finding purpose not in the harvest, but in the care itself. These actions may seem insignificant, but they anchor life in intention. They prevent days from dissolving into emptiness. Kant believed that when a person acts from inner conviction, life retains meaning regardless of circumstance. To betray oneself, to abandon one's inner standard for comfort or approval, is a true loss. Fidelity, on the other hand, preserves dignity. It allows a person to look at their life, even in its quietest phase, and recognize it as their own. Taken together, these four pillars form a foundation for a happy old age. Not a happiness of excitement, but of depth. They teach that freedom is not the absence of limits, but the presence of inner law, that independence does not require isolation, and meaning does not depend on recognition. Old age, from this perspective, is not an ending. It is a transition into a more inward form of life, a phase where one is invited to rely less on what fades and more on what endures. As Kant taught, the highest form of human dignity lies in self-governance. To be free is not to escape reality, but to meet it with integrity. Those who strengthen these four pillars discover that even as the world grows quieter, their inner life can become richer. Old age, then, is not a loss of freedom, but its fulfillment